We are live now. A very good afternoon to our respected resource person for today, Professor Ramachandran, Principal Sir and TLC Director, Professor S.P. Agarwal, and the dear participants who are with us for this 2-week interdisciplinary refresher course on reinventing skill education in the light of National Education Policy 2020. I welcome you all to this day 2 of this refresher course. Today we have with us Professor Ramachandran, and Sir will be delivering a lecture on outcome-based approach to vocational education. But before I hand over the session to Sir, I would take this privilege to introduce Sir to all the participants. So Professor K. Ramachandran is currently Senior Advisor, Unit of International Cooperation, National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, NEPA, New Delhi. Sir has been a member of the group set up drafting the National Education Policy 2020. During this period of 1990 till 2008, he worked with UNICEF as Senior Education Specialist, Senior Program Coordinator, and Deputy Country Representative. Prior to this, from 1975 till the year 1990, Sir was a member of faculty of National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCRT, New Delhi. I now request you, Sir, to take over the session and deliver your lecture. Over to you, Sir.
Thank you. Professor Agarwal, ladies and friends. I begin this, the outcome-based approach to vocational education. I remember a real event that was quoted as an example in industrial and organizational psychology. That goes like this. Once in the United States of America, in a company, a machine went out of order. The chief executive officer of the company requested a few engineers to come and set it right. They could not do it. Then came an ordinary mechanic. He said, "Sir, may I have a look at the machine?" He had a look at the machine for about 10 minutes. He tapped different places. Then he asked the CEO for a hammer, to hit. He was given a hammer. He hit the machine 3 places, altogether 3 times. The machine started functioning. He went back and sent a bill for $1,000. The CEO said, "For hitting 3 times, you are charging $1,000? That is too much." He replied, "Sir, for hitting 3 times, I charge only $30, $10 per hit. But to know where exactly to hit, I charge $970. So hitting is not important. Finding out where exactly to hit is the competence, is the real outcome." There is a feeling, not only in India, in many countries in the world, that we produce a large number of engineers and other vocational graduates who all know how to hit, but don't know where to hit. They cannot diagnose a real life problem and make systems functional. So the policy looked at it, and we thought we must create graduates in all subject areas, including vocational education and training, who not only know how to hit, but who knows where exactly to hit. It means they have the ability to solve a real life problem. That is the idea of vocational education today. Can we create vocational education graduates who can diagnose a problem and solve a problem or seek solutions to a problem which are real life in nature. That is the aim of the policy. Therefore, the policy has two major sentences which talk about the overall thrust of the policy. First one says, recognize, identify, and foster the unique capabilities of each student to promote their or his or her holistic development. The term I'll come back later, holistic development. That means we respect individual differences, we honor student diversity. I'm using the word honor and not address, not manage. Diversity is an asset, therefore we honor that. Then also indicates respect for the local context in curriculum, including vocational education and training curriculum, pedagogy, and overall policy. This is one aspect of the policy. Second, flexibility, so that learners have the ability to choose their learning trajectories and programs. What kind of program should they pursue? Should it be a vocational program? Should it be an academic program? Should it be a combination of both? And so on. And therefore, choose their own career according to their interests and talents. This is where the policy talks holistic development. What does that mean? It simply means we all try to develop human capacities in all areas: intellectual, aesthetic, socio-emotional, physical, ethical, moral, skill-based, and so on. And if you want development related to all these capacities, you cannot do it only by a single discipline learning, like chemistry, like or physics. It will require multidisciplinary approach. That is why policy is talking as a very ambitious goal. Like our adjacent college, Deshbandhu Gupta College, undergraduate program, 50% of students in that college will have a vocational program as a major or a minor. Somebody may have physics as a major. Somebody may have psychology as a major. Can we also have a minor, say 12 to 18 credits, dealing with a vocational course? The target set by the policy is 50%. By 2030, all colleges in the country offer vocational education programs as an integral part of undergraduate program, the vocational courses. That means every student will have a vocational skill when they leave the college or university. That is a very ambitious goal we have set. That means vocational education should not be only limited to BVoc or MVoc and so on. We can also think of integrating vocational education into the normal undergraduate program. And if we do that, it needs a flexible approach. A student in a university might opt for physics as a major. There is no reason Why we can have music as a minor? We can have theater as a minor. We can have a vocational trade like hospitality, like travel, and so on, or tourism as a course along with physics or chemistry or mathematics and so on. That is the approach to vocational education. It means we focus on the expected outcomes. And what are these main outcomes? Since you are talking vocational education, we should be concentrating on what we call the future of work, not the current level. Why we talk future? The students who will enter your college now are born and raised in technology rich environment. They are very good at technology. They will use technologies which don't exist now. The mobile phone you and I have now may have new apps during next 5 years, and you and I will be using that for our work, new technologies. So we must prepare our students for that. Then many of the students who are working with us now will enter jobs which don't exist now. New jobs. We don't know what would that be in future. That is why we are talking about future of work. You heard about this? Industry 4.0. It means the distinction between a human beings and a machine gradually disappears. What work could be done by a human being can also be done by a machine. We will soon have a driverless metro, a driverless car. We never thought of it 20 years ago. If you go to Dubai, you find driverless metro. In Delhi, one lane will be having driverless metro very soon. And that is the new job orientation. Then what will be the job of us? We will be designer of this program for a driverless car, for a driverless metro, for a robot which will be teaching class. When I went to China, I found that a robot can teach the way I'm teaching now, but programming that robot will be our task. It means the role of the teacher in future will change. Not just a transmitter of knowledge, but more of a content designer, content creator, instructional designer, like a robot, and therefore the future of work. Preparing our students to meet the demands of the future of work, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, drones, robots, and so on. Preparing ourselves for the future work. That means total change in our approach. So any vocational education program or any undergraduate program in future will focus on some of these things. That may be a 4 or 8 credit program on artificial intelligence, maybe big data analytics, machine learning, drones, how we can use drones for supply of goods in a city, robots, how they can be employed in a car factory, which is being already done. And some of these new aspects will have to be taught, like 3D printing, 7D printing, and so on. Like, there is a university in Agra, the Albagh Education Institute, where I go once in a while. They have a program on artificial intelligence. They have a program on 3D printing. They have a great program on vocational education. Like that, multidisciplinary aspects, course. You may ask a question to me, what do you exactly mean by the term multidisciplinary? I take examples quoted by two educationists, Park and Chow, a few years ago, when they described what is multidisciplinary, what is interdisciplinary, what is transdisciplinary, and what is monodisciplinary. Monodisciplinary, we discussed. Physics is a monodisciplinary program. If you say, I'm majoring in physics, I am majoring in psychology, I am majoring in other areas. But when you go to environmental sciences, even though that is a discipline, it is also multidisciplinary. The environmental science means study of environment, study through environment, study for environment. That means protection of environment, protection of biodiversity, and so on. The moment you talk about environmental science, we are talking about climate change, we are talking about protection of biodiversity, we are talking about protection of environment as a whole, like the way our neighbor Bhutan does it. 60% of Bhutan's land area must be under forest cover. Otherwise, there will be severe damage to environment, like what is happening now in Uttarakhand in our country. Tremendous landslide. As a result of that comes because of we have spoiled our nature, trees cut. This is multidisciplinary. When you look at climate change, education will be a separate entity. Biodiversity protection will be a separate entity. But they all join together to have what we call environmental science. That means the example given is multidisciplinary study is like a salad. You and I eat salad. When you eat a salad, you find cucumber separately, you find tomato separately, you find leaves separately, but together they make a salad. Cucumber has its own function. Therefore, in vocational education, if you're talking about hospitality, tourism has its own way, running a hotel has its own way, but together it is multidisciplinary, like a salad. Some part of promotion of tourism is running good hotels, hospitality, the technical aspect of it, management, business management, online database, information technology used, multidisciplinary nature, but they all together make what we call hospitality or tourism and so on. So that is the way we talk about multidisciplinary learning. Therefore, physics as a major, a vocational program in tourism or data science as another major, double major, or one as a major, the other as a minor, with a clear-cut indication that by the time you and I finish the course, we will be skilled. And that is the advantage of multidisciplinary. Therefore, the policy recommends that by the year of 2030, 50% of undergraduate students in all disciplines take up a vocational program. Like if you're talking psychology, there can be a vocational program related to clinical psychology. You can have a clinic to deal with some of these aspects, how we can reduce stress and so on, emotional well-being. That becomes a occupational, vocational part of it within the area of what you're talking psychology in this aspect. Then comes the question of interdisciplinary. What does that mean? The example says it is something like a stew. You know, you and I eat stew, sometimes along with roti, or southern India, appam, and so on, or dosha. What does a stew look like? The ingredients are mixed. You can't say this is curry powder, this is coriander. They had joined, integrated. So are the vegetables put into. The taste slightly varies. It is not like cucumber alone. It is not like tomato alone. Combining together, integrated form, they make what you call a stew. So the interdisciplinary approach to education is something like that. Then I use the word transdisciplinary, much more higher level. The example given is a transdisciplinary is something like a cake. You know, when you eat a cake, you use sometimes eggs, you use variety of materials, but once a cake is made, you can't distinguish between the ingredients. They are joined, fully integrated. That is what we call transdisciplinary. That you can't bifurcate the boundaries of disciplines easily. This is what is going to happen in future. A single discipline oriented vocational education program may be done by a machine in future. It may not need a human being. But multidisciplinary vocational program will need the human beings. It cannot be done only by a machine. And therefore, in future, the vocational education programs will be more and more multidisciplinary to solve a problem in vocational education. We use principles of physics, principles of biology for talking about environment. Does the industry harm environment? Does the industry follow certain values? Like we do not employ child labor, only those who are above 18 years, and so on. The value gets integrated into our industrial scenario and environment. So you find that vocational education, very important, ethical aspect. If I do this, would it harm the environment? There are a large number of industries along rivers in India. What do? There is one hand industrial development, other hand the waste of industry are thrown into the river and that pollute the river, be it Ganges or Kaveri or Yamuna. The rivers are polluted by the industrial waste. That is an unethical aspect. So ethical issue becomes also an important aspect in a vocational program. So you and I are looking as teachers and so on, the future of work. What should we do to respond to Industry 4.0? So that is the main theme the policy is also talking. Therefore, every vocational course having artificial intelligence as integral part, machine learning, robots, Internet of Things, drones, study of it, 3D, 7D printing, technology-enabled learning in future. Most vocations will be technology-enabled. How do we do it? Now, if you do that, what will be the economic impact of that? How many will lose jobs? How many new jobs will be created? These are all important questions in technical and vocational education and training. Also true of the other educational aspect. So the policy therefore looks at future. That's why I indicated future of work. Now, coming back to the real theme, if that is the case, we have to identify what are the future outcomes a student of vocational education and training should demonstrate, not only acquire, but also demonstrate the skills. And therefore, any program will have two aspects of outcomes. Number one, outcomes related to the disciplinary areas of study or vocation or work or a professional practice. Like we are talking about ICT as a vocation, there is an element of physics, there is an element of mathematics built into that, there is an element of other areas as well, economic aspect, economics. Will the business be successful? So you find that anything you and I do in future will have a multidisciplinary approach. So that is something you and I may have to look into. And therefore, the vocational program curriculum design will have disciplinary area component. And in this area, 4 outcomes. One outcome is what we call a coherent and systematic understanding of a discipline. Like I mentioned, physics as applied to engineering, chemistry applied to chemical engineering, a few others, electronics, electrical engineering, civil engineering, and so on, components of that. A coherent understanding of the disciplinary areas of study. Second, procedural knowledge. The vocational area you and I follow has something called construction technology. How do we construct a building or a bridge? What knowledge you and I need to do that? To prepare a bridge, a blueprint, we need capability of what we call engineering drawing. Architecture needs that. This is what we call procedural knowledge. How to do a thing. Third, the actual skills. If we have learned construction technology as a vocation, can we spend 3 months on the construction site and practice building, a new bridge, and so on? Actual practice skill for that. Lastly, whatever you and I learn through a coherent understanding of the discipline, be it physics, be it electrical engineering, be it electronics, how we can apply that in a real life situation, application. So, knowledge, in your case, professional knowledge, vocational knowledge. Next, procedural knowledge, how to do a task, how to accomplish a task. Then comes later skills of using it, actual skills through internship, industry affiliation, apprenticeship, and so on. And then how do we apply that in a real life situation? These are learning outcomes related to what we call disciplinary areas of study related to a field of learning, a field of work, a vocation, or an area of professional practice. These outcomes must be clearly specified in our curriculum, vocational education curriculum. Also true of general education curriculum. The policy in this context therefore talks, in future, there will be nothing called vocational stream or academic stream. There is no boundary. Every scheme is skill-based, in which we will have disciplinary areas of learning. We may have vocational trades and so on, but all areas of learning will have a skills component. Even mathematics, there will be a skills component. Economics, microeconomics, macro, econometrics, game theory, and so on. There is a skill component of that. So therefore, skill doesn't mean only technical competence. Skills can also be what you call cognitive, like a computer designer. Skills can be practical, exactly doing things like cooking in a hospitality program. Skills can be entrepreneurial skills. Can I start an enterprise by myself? Self-employment. So self-employment skill. More important, we all create people with entrepreneurship skill. But unfortunately, many of us don't have the entrepreneurial mindset, that risk-taking behavior. I'll give an example of that. I was in a BVOC program recently in a university in Delhi. The academic council meeting of the university was held there. The students of hospitality, they prepared the lunch for us. Excellent lunch. One of the best lunches I had recently. Then after the program was over, they came to me and said, "Sir, could you please help us in getting a job in a 5-star hotel?" So I said, "Why do you want to join a wage employment sector like a hotel? Why don't you start a restaurant by yourself as an entrepreneur? Reply came, sir, is it not risky? We may fail. It means the student did not have mindset. We all talk about self-employment skills, entrepreneurial skills, but we don't talk about the mindset, entrepreneurial mindset. Then I said, if you don't take risk now, when do you take? You are all now bachelors. Even if you fail, you can think something else. Not like 10 years later. So for learning as a chef, you can join for some time in a hotel. But once you master it, why don't you start your own enterprise? They listened to me. I think 3, 4 of them have now become entrepreneurs. Successful. It means the mindset changed. This is a critical aspect of outcome of vocational education. Don't prepare yourself only to be a wage employer relation. You want a salaried job. Why not you become an entrepreneur and you become master of your job? That entrepreneurship mindset has to be developed. That is an outcome. That when you pass out, how many of students have this entrepreneurship mindset? There is a university in Bangalore called Srishti Manipal. They are teaching design jobs. When they finish course, hardly anybody has to search for jobs. They are so competent, skill-oriented, with entrepreneurial mindset. They start their own ventures as soon as they pass out. They are all highly successful. So therefore, the feeling in our system is the current vocational education program doesn't create people for future of work, technology-enabled learning. And even if jobs are lost, new jobs will come. But new jobs require different kind of skill sets. An automobile engineer today, not like earlier, a lot of robots work in Maruti and other companies. Can this person work along with the robot, manage role changes? It means even if there are jobs available, the job requirements, the job description change. Therefore, we need to do that. That is why we look at future. From 10 years from now, we don't know what kind of jobs will be there. Can we forecast that new jobs in these areas will exit and old jobs, which are typically manual, might vanish? So can we train people more and more for technology-enabled learning so that they become what we call designers and not programmers? You know, the IT thing we are talking, very proud of it. When I visit Seattle, I go to the Microsoft area away from Seattle. I find a lot of Indians sitting and working on the ground sometimes. I ask them, what do you do? I find now more than 95% of these people are programmers and not designers. The designers give them a piece of paper, they program it. They don't design a new program. So if you're talking about ICT program as a vocation, The challenge now is we create not only programmers, we create more and more designers. And that is the challenge of the curriculum of vocational education in information and communication technology. On that day, somebody asked me a question. Why is India not producing mobiles like Apple phone, iPhone, Samsung, and so on? A simple answer was, we did not invest in hardware. Computer engineering we taught, but investment did not come. Many things need chips. We don't produce chips in India to the extent we need it. Why? Because we did not emphasize that as a future requirement. So a time has come, we invest in chips making. Once we do that, you'll find mobile phones will come from our own, like what is being talked to Make India, Made in India, and so on. That needs a basics. So therefore, future work demands designers and not just programmers. So can we have a relook at our curriculum and practice of information technology thing? So the outcome is that our students will be able to design and not alone programming. That is part of design, no doubt. Like we need more of the Google chairperson. We need more of Tesla company people, designers. Then you will find we contribute to national development. So look at the future. So my submission to my vocational education colleagues, including teachers and teacher educators, is that prepare our vocational education students to face the demands of the fourth industrial revolution. We are now at fourth. We have finished three. The first industrial revolution came when steam engine was invented. Steam-based machines came, changed the whole aspect of vocational trade and engineering program. That was in 1789, if I remember correctly. 1789. Then 100 years later, 1873, came a revolution. That was invention of electricity, Thomas Alva Edison's bulb and so on, electricity-driven machines and so on. Changed completely, a revolution. That is why Russia said during revolution, let every village in the country be electrified. The development will take place. Can we say every village in the country, every school in the country is electrified? Not only village, every school. So that they have internet access and so on. That is the second revolution came. We were not much part of that. Third revolution came 1969 with the internet, personal computers, and so on. Big data analytics changed vocational education completely, engineering education completely. That was third industrial revolution. Now we are on the fourth, artificial intelligence. Robots, that many work which are done by human beings can also be done by a machine. That is why driverless metro, driverless car, which Tesla is trying to, Hyundai is trying to produce, will be soon in the Indian market in about 3-4 years' time. So, can we prepare our students for that? A designer for that, looking at future and not just the current requirement. And that is the outcome we are talking. We are trying to create graduates who are prepared to face the challenges of the future of work. That is the outcome. And that needs, as I indicated earlier, disciplinary areas, a coherent understanding of these areas, the relationship between different areas, like what is the difference relationship between mechanical engineering and physics, electrical engineering and physics, chemistry, and so on. This is one outcome. Second, as I indicated earlier, what we call procedural knowledge, how to do a thing. Third, actual skills, practice through internship and others, industrial engagement, and so on, engagement in research and development, actual skills. Then how do we apply all these to solve a real life or unfamiliar problems? The next is outcomes which are common to all aspects, You may be a vocational trade in hospitality. You may be in what you call a tourism specialist, maybe a construction specialist, and so on. But all of you need certain principles common. And what are those? Number one is what you call, we all should be a problem solver. The problem solving ability, whether you are a physics graduate, whether you are a mechanical engineering graduate, whether you are a person trained in hospitality, whether you are trained in automobile engineering, all of you should have one quality, that is outcome, problem solving. All of us must be able to solve a problem, like the one I explained in the beginning. Like a machine not functioning, can we make it function? A problem solver. Ask the question often, what skills we need for that? I take examples of my granddaughter, who is now 7. She came to India first time from the USA when she was age 5. And I asked her, where are you coming to? She said, Grandpa, to India. I said, which place in India? She said, I don't know that. My grandson told her, you are going to the capital city of India. The moment she heard capital city of India, she said, Grandpa, give me 10 seconds. I'll give you the answer. She opened her iPad, Google search, capital city of India. She got New Delhi. Say, Grandpa, I'm coming to New Delhi. Look at her tool, an iPad, or can be a mobile tool. The learning equipment changes. You and I don't need to teach that. They will find answers by themselves. I was checking into a hotel in Mumbai with her. The first question she asked the manager was, Uncle, what is the Wi-Fi code of this hotel? Can I have it? He said, why are you so fond of that? He said, I want to talk to my friend in San Diego in the US. using Wi-Fi, using FaceTime on Apple phone. A 5-year-old girl, very proficient in Wi-Fi connectivity and so on. Then when she was kindergarten, age 5, I asked her, what is 10 plus 20 plus 30 equal to? She said, Grandpa, give me 5 seconds. Open her iPad, press the 10 plus 20 plus 30. iPad get the answer, 60. So she was that glued to iPad, internet and so on, a 5-year-old girl. Then she looks at my mobile and says, Grandpa, you are outdated. You don't have this app, that app. 13 apps, she said. They can be used for teaching in a classroom. And she downloads all those apps, which I did not know. Then my son asked me a question. Whenever I ask her a question, she will say, give me 10 seconds, open iPad, and she does the work. They carry iPad and computer to the school now because online learning and so on. Then I said, I'll ask a question something like this. See, 10 plus 20 plus 30 is equal to 60. She answered. I wanted her to use this knowledge, apply this knowledge in solving a real life problem. I gave her a real life problem where she can apply this 10 plus 20 plus 30 is equal to 60. The example I gave was, there is a river, and there is a river in San Diego. On one side of the river, there is a small township. The other side of the river, there is a school. 3 children from the township, one weighing 10 units, other child weighing 20 units, other child weighing 30 units, travel in a boat which can take 10 plus 20 plus 30 units of weight, 60 units, and they use the boat to cross the river and go to school on other side of the river. They had this boat. In the evening, when they were about to go back home from the school, this big boat capsized. There was a small boat which could carry only weight of 30 units, not 60. It means all 3 cannot go together. They have to find a method using which all 3 can use this boat, cross the river, and go home. I asked her, can you give me a solution to this problem? Immediately came reply, oh, Grandpa, Google search doesn't give answer to this. So I had to think about it. The girl thought about it for 50 minutes, 50 minutes, came back with an answer. Grandpa, I found an answer. And I said, what is it? Grandpa, the boat can take only 30. So all 3 cannot go together. So we have to split. First, 10 and 20 will go in the boat and cross the river. So one trip. Then he said, 20 will remain and 10 will take the boat back to the other bank. Second trip. Then she said, 10 will remain there. 30 will take the boat because 30 is the maximum weight you can take and cross the river. Third trip. Then 20 will take the boat back to bring the 10 back. Fourth trip and fifth trip. She found an answer. This is what we call problem solving. Now, 2 weeks later, I asked a question to her again. She answered in 5 seconds. I said, how do you answer this in 5 seconds? On that day, you took 50 minutes. She said, Grandpa, we learned on that day. Today I am producing from my memory, rote learning. So I got the answer. What was complex problem solving 3 weeks ago? If you repeat the same question and you think you are testing problem, but all that you are testing is symbol recall, memory oriented, rote learning based. This is the mistake you and I make when we do a vocational program or problem solving. We think we are testing problem solving, but actually we are testing, if you repeat the question, we are not testing problem solving, we are testing again rote learning. So you and I should never repeat a question. We must find new question, new approach to problem solving. When she was in grade 1, I asked her, can you think of a mechanism where you can find, she was in India at that time, find the height of Qutb Minar in Delhi without climbing on the top. Find the height of Qutb Minar without climbing on the top. I said, I'll give you a thread, a meter stick, where you can measure distance. Can you find the height of Qutb Minar? She was in Delhi. She again tried to look at Google search, used the right pair. Google search said no answer to this. And they knew Qutb Minar in Delhi, but they did not know the height of it or anything. So she could not do that. The girl thought for about half an hour. I gave a clue to her. It was a bright sunny day. I said, you stand nearby the Qutb Minar. Do you see the shadow of Qutb Minar? He said, Grandpa, I do. Do you see the shadow of your shadow? He said, yes, Grandpa, I do, but it's small. I said, can you do something with this finding height of Qutb Minar? Took another 15 minutes. She said, Grandpa, now I have found the method. Because I gave a clue to her. My shadow is about this much long, about 2 feet. Qutb Minar's shadow is long, much longer than my shadow. So maybe I can compare my shadow with Qutb Minar's shadow. My shadow, I am only 2 feet height, 2.5 feet height. How many times more is Qutb Minar? That many times will be the height of Qutb Minar. The girl got answer. She was only in grade 1, but struggled and got answer. This is again problem solving. But don't repeat. If you repeat, again, problem solving becomes symbol rote learning. So every vocational student graduate should have a learning outcome. This is what we call generic learning outcome, like problem solving in a real life situation, in unfamiliar context. That's what is required. This is one. Second, think critically. If a machine is not working, what could be the possible reasons? Maybe there is a jam. I find when my water pressure pump doesn't work, my first assumption is maybe there is some jam. Can I find out? That is my thinking critically. Could that be the reason? I check and I find that's not the reason. Then second, I say maybe something wrong at the downstairs on the connection. See again, a guess, an assumption, but I'm still looking at things critically. I check and I find perhaps that was correct. Just not jamming, it was something wrong at the switch. It was an electrical problem, not a pump problem alone. This is what we call critical thinking. So every graduate out of your course should be a critical thinker. Third, I ask you to design, say, the logo of Ramanujan College. Logo of Ramanujan College. There is a logo already. I ask 100 of you, can you design a new logo for Ramanujan College? And I'll get 100 designs. No single answer. Multiple answers based on your creativity. That is what we call creative thinking. Every graduate of a vocational program should be a creative thinker. Creative way of finding a solution. That is an outcome. That is a creative thinker. You become, this is what we call a graduate attribute. You are a problem solver. You are a critical thinker. You are a creative thinker to produce new design, new way of functioning, new product creation, and so on. Then, many actions you and I do are teamwork. There is a problem, like the water pump I mentioned. The plumber looks at, is there a jam? The electrician looks at, is there some power supply problem, connectivity problem? Two different people working in teams. And that is very important for a vocational education graduate. Many work you do are in teams. Many problems you and I solve are in teams, not just one. A mechanic of a car looks at different aspects. It can be done in a team. A car is manufactured now by a team. Somebody looks at electrical, it comes on the robotics pattern. Somebody checks the fuel tank and so on. Somebody prepares backlights, somebody on a wiper, and so on. You find a team does it. So every vocational graduate, therefore, must be capable of working in a team. It means the outcome is a team player. Capability to work in team. Can the program develop that? Then very important, all of us must be an excellent communicator. We know the problem, but can we communicate that to our customers and so on? Because we are asked to quote sometimes how much money would be required. If it is a battery, can that be recharged? How do you do it? Can we use the scooter for that purpose? Or should we change the battery? Should we have a new battery and so on? And explain this to the consumer that you need to change your battery because of these reasons. You don't need to change the battery because of these reasons. We'll try to rectify it and so on. A good, skilled communicator, an outcome. Skilled communicator. Next, I'm taking it further. Very important is ethical and moral values. Like when I returned after 19 years to the country, working for United Nations, I was offered a job by a company in Mumbai to tackle their education programs. I was offered 8 lakhs plus as a salary, free chauffeur-driven car, free house and all. So I thought, let me go and have a look at this company, what it is. When I entered the workshop, I found two children aged 14 or 15 working for the company, child labor. So my ethical value did not allow me to join the company. I worked for children during my United Nations career. So when I worked against child labor. So I said, I will not join your company because you are employing child labor. That was ethical and moral values. Any graduate, any engineer should ensure we don't employ child labor to make profit. We must follow ethical and moral values. That is an outcome for every vocational education graduate. That we want to make money, we want to work, but can we do it which is ethically correct, not only economically feasible and viable, morally right? That is an outcome. So you find now the kind of outcomes we are talking in vocational education or either education make the curricula and learning experience outcome oriented. In addition to having disciplinary areas of knowledge, skills, and application ability, can we also create generic learning outcomes for all vocational trade as a problem solver, as a critical thinker, as a creative thinker, as a skilled communicator, as an ethical and moral value oriented person, and so on. That creates the real outcome. And outcome based learning means these are the things. And if you have an outcome based learning like this, we should also teach that. Teach in that form, our pedagogy, our teaching methodology, our instructional strategies, you and I design must be to promote an outcome-based education of that kind. In my transparency, the slide I sent you, there are more. That was for reference. I didn't want to present that today, but do have a look at it. And that is the idea. The core values, very important. The core competencies, like what I said, problem solving is a core competence. Critical thinking is a core competence. Creative thinking is a core competence. Like when we had COVID-19, we used online learning, like the way we are doing now. That came to solve a problem created due to lockdown. It's a creative thinking. That can we use digital and technological solutions to education. And that is what you and I are going to do in future. There will be three kinds of learning in Ramanujan College or any other college. One will be full-time in-person learning, like the way we normally do in a classroom, face-to-face learning. Second, I must say, can I do it partly online, like the way I'm doing now, and partly face-to-face? All theories we do online. Practical aspect, we do face-to-face. How to operate a lathe, how to solve an electrical problem, how to create a woodwork, making a bed, twin-size bed, and so on. That is practical, actual skills. That can be done face to face. We can also do even practical online. An example I give you is I used to be a student of physics, and one thing I never understood was, something called resultant force in physics. An example normally given to us is there is a ship grounded near the port. The ship has to be pulled out and brought to the pier. I used two boats to pull the ship, but to get it in direction, I have to keep the boat in a particular angle and pull it. Then only it will come. This is what we call resultant force. I never understood this when my teacher taught it, because he said, suppose this is the thing, suppose this is the angle, a lot of suppositions. When the virtual lab came, I could change the angle virtually sitting on my computer. And I found a particular angle, the ship moves. So that is the correct thing we are talking. So, Gopu, I call you, I'm in lecture now. So, by virtual changing, I could do that so easily. I could understand what the teacher could not teach for 1 hour, I could teach in 5 minutes. That is the online virtual lab. Many practices you do occasionally can also be done virtually, like a simulator of an aircraft. That is an example of doing something not face to face. The simulator, training pilot, all problems can be solved using that, and then take the actual plane. You can't do only through simulator, then you also need certain face-to-face training. That is the approach in future will take place. That partly online, partly virtual, partly face-to-face. So any vocational program will be what you call hybrid, partly face-to-face, partly online. And it depends upon the kind of outcome you and I start doing it. Next, maybe certain things totally online. And exam is conducted also online. How to do it, how to upload exam, which I learned from my granddaughter. She writes the answer and quickly uploads on the online basis. Then testing is done. In future, we will have what we call computer-based adaptive testing. You take a test, the difficulty level will improve from one level to other. Computer-based. These are the future. So the feeling that all vocational education program should be face-to-face, that's not correct. You can have a hybrid approach, or based on certain things, you can have what you call completely online, or I call it remote learning based. Then only we will have 50% of undergraduate students attaining a vocational skill by 2030. That is the thrust of this policy. And no distinction between vocational and so-called academic stream. No hierarchy. Vocational education program will be as important, as prestigious as any other program. The stature of vocational education will be enhanced. The degree will be the same. That's what the policy wants. There is nothing called curricular, nothing called core curricular, nothing called extracurricular. You may have a virtual program. You may have a vocational program. You can also have a program in sports, in visual art. You may train through this in visual art. The person graduates as a critical thinker, as a creative thinker in art, who can draw the painting by herself or himself and be a professional in that field. So that is the learning outcome-based curriculum framework we are talking. The attempt in vocational education was made when we had what we call the National Skills Qualification Framework, which are generic from level 1 to level 10. Level 10 being the most difficult, level 1 being the easiest. Now that why the NSQF came, I think there's somebody talking about separately. The occupational standards came through that. Now what the policy proposes is the National Skills Qualification Framework also should be detailed in terms of learning outcomes relevant to hospitality, example, tourism as an example, ICT as an example, construction technology as an example, automobile as an example, apparel making as an example. Detail it. What are the graduate attributes we need? What are the program learning outcomes to be mastered by our students? For that, what courses should we offer? An outcome-based approach to curriculum framework, and not a supply-based curriculum, but a demand-based curriculum. And therefore, policy says the vocational education curriculum will be determined on the basis of what we call skills gap analysis. Skill gap analysis. What are the skills available now in the community? What are the skills required for future, the future of work? And can the colleges design a program to bridge the skill gap? So the courses will be determined based on a skills gap analysis. Again, an outcome oriented. We want to bridge this gap. Then, when you do that in any vocational education, you can say there can be levels based on experience. Like a graduate coming out of a vocational program, she or he has certain attributes, certain learning outcomes. This person, as an automobile engineer, works for 5 years. Then this person becomes a proficient automobile person. After 5 years, 10 years of handling this, he or she becomes an expert automobile engineer. Then maybe after 5 years, she or he becomes a master automobile engineer. Look at, within automobile engineering, there can be 4 levels based on the competencies. And therefore, the learning outcomes also may be specified for an engineer, for a vocational graduate, according to these 4 levels. And that is the approach we should be taking. When the National Skills Qualification Framework is modified, one is we look at this in terms of core values, core competencies, professional knowledge, professional skills, ability to apply, humanistic, constitutional, ethical, moral values, judgment and decision making. We all look at that. A judgment and decision making is very important for a vocational graduate. Should I change this part? Should I repair this part? How long this will continue if I repair? How long that can take place without changing parts? Decision making, very important. And actual competence to do things. Responsibility, as indicated in National Skills Qualification Framework. Can I take responsibility for the work of myself, for the output of my work? Or if I'm in a team, am I not responsible for the entire team? And that is a kind of outcome-based approach you're talking. And this is extremely important when we look at the curriculum. So I'm going to stop for some time and I want some questions from you people. I want to make it interactive. So an outcome-based approach to education is key to it. We will specify what are the graduate attributes to be demonstrated by all of you, all of us. Then what are the disciplinary knowledge, skills, application ability we need? What are the generic learning outcomes to be acquired and demonstrated by all of us, like problem solver, critical thinker, creative thinker, communicator, team player, and so on. One can work in multilingual context, very important. Any big factory, you have multilingual people speaking different languages, multiple cultures. How do you work in that? Very important. How do you supervise a team? So multicultural context, how you can handle. Many of these things are learning outcomes. Now, how do we also change our pedagogical approach, teaching learning strategies, and assessment, very important. How do we change the assessment strategies for this? More skills-based assessment and not just theory-based. I'll end by giving an example of that. When I go for selection committee meetings, I'm asked to find out the communication skill of the candidate. And quite often we judge by how do they respond to interview questions. But I normally go for a new system. I ask the person, did you ever have a chance to speak in a situation where you had to communicate a technical knowledge to an ordinary person, an ordinary audience? Invariably, they say, yes, I have done it. If they say, yes, I have done it, I ask them, how did you do it? Then they explain how they did it. That is the way we can test communication skills and writing skills, spoken skills. More important, listening skills. Many of us don't listen properly. Then spoken skills. I'm just giving an example of that. So many skills ought to be tested like this. Like the design course I mentioned, after all examinations, they have an interview, 5 hours a test, to find out whether the graduate has attained the defined graduate attributes or the expected learning outcomes or course learning outcomes or demonstrate the values required, like commitment to a profession as a value. Can they defend what they do to an external evaluator and so on? So that is the change we are expecting in technical and vocational education programs. I'll stop at this stage. I would like to get a few questions before I go further. Nidhi, over to you. You can now seek questions in case there are anything in the Hangouts, or they can even ask orally if the connectivity is okay. Go ahead, Nidhi.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I will just look at the queries if there are participants. If you have any queries, and you can post in the Zoom chat box, please. Otherwise, we can thank sir and we can leave the session. In
No,
case
not
there are
yet.
any queries,
No,
please post in the
no,
chat box.
the session is up to what time? 2 o'clock, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
No, I can go ahead further, but I want to take a few questions.
Okay.
I'm not in a hurry to go. So.
Okay. Sorry, sir. Sorry. I thought probably.
No.
Participants, please post your queries and then sir will continue. No, sir, there aren't any queries as of now. Just the participants are saying that it's a very excellent and a wonderful
No.
session.
But ask them orally. Doesn't matter.
Sorry, sir.
They can ask questions orally.
Okay.
They can ask anything they want. Doesn't matter.
Okay. So, sir is very proactive as far as these questions QA session is concerned. Participants, if you want to have an interactive session with sir, then you can raise your hand and we can unmute you and then you can pose your question to sir. Whosoever has any question for sir. No, sir, they don't have any question for you. You're on mute, sir.
There must be some. Maybe they may take 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can raise your hands also, participants. You can raise your hands if you want to discuss anything with sir.
This is a disadvantage of online learning. So they can ask anything they want, any query on.
Okay, sir is saying that you can ask any query, any question under the sun, and sir will be able to answer.
They are all teachers, am I right? Or
Yes, sir. No, sir, they are faculty members.
Faculty members. Okay, then I think. Well, let them think for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, I'll continue a few things.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Ask them, think about, and then put a few questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
so sir is resuming his session. Meanwhile, participants, you can post your queries in the chat box. Yes, sir.
Since you are all faculty members, variety of disciplines, you will also go through 4 stages of your competence. One, I will call among you, there may be a group called early faculty, recently joined faculty, as assistant professors perhaps. After 5 years, you become what you call a proficient faculty. You have learned a lot through experience. After 5 years, you may become what you call an expert faculty. Maybe in 15 years, you would become a professor and a master faculty. The competence, the outcomes required by each of you at different levels of experience is also different. And therefore, what we are now aiming at is, in the school level, we are preparing a national professional standards for teachers, which means what the teacher should know and be able to do. That is a professional standard. Similarly, for higher education faculty, again, there will be a professional standards for higher education faculty. And that will also indicate what you should know and be able to do. And gradually in future, that will also become a guide for faculty appraisal. So next 1 year, you'll find you will have a list of some of these things. Now, one area in undergraduate program we are talking about is, one is all undergraduate program, vocational education programs are offered either as a major or a minor. A combination of subjects like physics, chemistry, maths, biology, economics, history, and a vocational program. Like I mentioned, apparel making, fashion design, construction technology, and so on. This will be one chain. We are now talking about a 4-year undergraduate program, not just 3-year. And if you have a 4-year undergraduate program, some students can exit after the first year with a certificate, a self-contained independent course. Exit after 2 years, you will get a diploma, undergraduate diploma. Exit after 3 years, you get a bachelor degree. Exit after 4 years, you get a bachelor of degree with research or honors. So the programs will have multiple exit and re-entry options. And same thing is true of vocational as well, academic as well. So that is what we are now envisaging. Those who do 4-year program, even if it's BVoc, it doesn't matter, they can think of 1-year master's program. Those who did 3 years, 2 years master's program. Those who completed 4-year bachelor degree with research, 1-year master's program. We are also thinking of 5-year bachelor master's degree program, 5-year master's PhD program, integrated, like the 4-year integrated teacher education program. So things are changing drastically from 2022-23 onwards. So this year, 2021-22, all of us may prepare to make our program more learning outcomes based. The entire curriculum will become learning outcome based, which will indicate the graduate attributes, the program learning outcomes, the course learning outcomes, which will lead to the program learning outcome and so on. So 2021-22, we hope some of you as faculty will use to design courses which will be taught by you, which will be assessed by you. In future, in about 10 years' time, there will be no affiliated colleges. Like Ramanujan College is an affiliated college. Either in 10 years' time, either they may have to become a constituent college as part of Delhi University, an integral part, or an autonomous college which can design, teach, and assess programs. So either you become autonomous college or you become a constituent college, or you have both. For example, the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University has 14 colleges as constituent colleges, as an integral part of the university, and a few colleges affiliated. And in many places we have autonomous colleges. They can design their course. There is academic autonomy within the broad framework of what is called National Higher Education Qualification Framework, which will be in the public domain in about 2 weeks' time. So a great deal of changes taking place during next 10 years. I'm not telling everything will start next year. Some will start next year, some may start later. But within 10 years, all having reform. And a great reform will be at the undergraduate level. Since you're all faculty, that you will undergo a programs which are reformed in terms of outcome-based approach, as I explained earlier, in terms of mode of teaching, face-to-face, hybrid, totally remote. Now that will be coming up very soon, that all of you offer courses in 3 modes. And therefore, internship, an integral part of your course, community engagement and service, an integral part of your course, very important. Field-based learning, very important part of your course. The learning will not be only in your college. It will be outside as well. I'll give an example. I think those who come from Maharashtra may be aware of it. Some engineering colleges in Maharashtra have an approach to solving problems in the environment, maybe a radius of 50 kilometers. They do a survey to find out what are the problems in the environment. Maybe drainage problem, maybe road concession problem, maybe malaria problem. Then the college designs a project to solve this problem. Drainage problem, what kind of drainage we need to have, and so on. Like no gas, can we think of biogas as a remedy? There is a village in Maharashtra where I used to go, biogas plants, self-reliant, the whole village gets gas through that. So this is what we call field-based learning and community engagement and service. What is proposed is a maximum of 6 credits for community engagement and service like this, 6 credits for internship, 6 credits for the other aspect. More community-based learning is encouraged. And these colleges in Maharashtra, the community is so happy because they are getting an innovative approach to solving a real life problem, like the biogas plants and so on, and self-reliance through that. So can we think of something like this? And there will be revisiting of the structure of courses you and I implement at the undergraduate master's level. And mostly having multiple entry, re-entry options. The University Grants Commission has brought out a document on multiple entry and exit. The University Grants Commission has brought out a document on what we call academic bank of credit. You do one course in a year, you take credits, let us say 18 credits, that can be put in academic bank in your name. And when you come back, you can retrieve that and start from where you left. These credits can be kept in the bank for about 7 years. You can continue the course after 7 years That is the idea of multiple exit and re-entry options. We don't want them to drop out, encourage them to come back. And that is what the National or Academic Bank of Credit, these are on the UGC website. Soon we will have a national higher education qualification framework. That will give you an idea what are the levels of courses you can. Level 5, first year of undergrad program. Level 6, second year. Level 7, 3-year bachelor degree. Level 4, bachelor degree to research. Level 5 can be many other phases, and see how we can do it. And level 8, masters, 1-year masters, 2-year masters, and level 10, PhD. You will soon have this document in a public domain. So based on these things, you and I will now start redesigning the courses. So 2021-22, give a thought to this, that how do we redesign the program? New curricular structure, new curricular approach, new pedagogical approach, combination of remote and face-to-face learning, and new approaches to field-based internship learning, community engagement and service. Now, do take some thought on this. And I think we all will be delighted to seek suggestions, advice from all of you, because you are the people in the field. And a good example of that will come. So I think that is what is required. If some of you are ready with 1 or 2 questions, I'll be glad. Nidhi, back to you again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there is one question by Dr. Rupam Gogoi. And the question is, sir, would you please let us know certain vocational programs that literature departments and the Department of Philosophy of colleges can start?
Very good question. There's a feeling in our academics, the moment you say skill, it's all vocational trade, technical trade. That's not true. Even philosophy has a vocation. Like you want to have a look at the philosophical aspect of, say, teacher education. The vocation there is, how do you identify the philosophical aspect and study of philosophies in India for a long time and see how we can do it. And therefore, the vocation would be a philosophical analyst as a vocation. How do you analyze the developments in education or systems in India from a philosophical practice originator? So you become in the field of vocation of a philosophical analyst. Literature, language. Literature means listening and learning, speaking. Now, what is the developments in Indian literature and language learning? Can we again do an analysis of approaches in these areas? Then language. Language, again, we take all the 4, listening, speaking, writing and reading. Literature aspect. What is the trend in literature in India? A research. And therefore you become like a research analyst. Music, for instance, musicologist. It is a profession. Art education. Art as a profession. Visual art as a profession, vocational. Musicologist as a profession. Music as a profession, like our playback singers and so on. So every subject has an element of vocation. That is what you and I need to analyze and identify and tell the philosophy person you are also organizing a vocational program. What procedural knowledge you need to become a philosophical analyst, a philosophy analyst, study of that. And then what contribution can we make to the overall learning of an undergraduate in this form? So skill and professional aspect is in every discipline. So in future, like UGC says, skill-based courses, that may go off. Every course has a skill-based component, be it philosophy, be it language and literature. Every one of them has a skill component. Like writer is a professional. And so therefore, a skilled writer, novelist, expository writing. Can we offer a course in language and literature? A few students on expository writing, a few students on what you call academic writing, which in a way is vocational. You are teaching them how to be a good academic writer, how to be a good expository writer, and so on. So my submission to you would be every course is now skill-based, and therefore there can be a vocation. Vocations which are not practiced so far, new designs, and that is the challenge. I say future of work. What is the future role of a philosophy person? What would be the language and literature? What would be in music? The changes that place, like a playback singing. Earlier, Lata Mangeshkar ji used to sing from beginning to the end, but now that is not the system. She can sing what you call track. Track is done. Then the music director will change the other aspect. Doesn't have to sing continuously a song. And I think that is a spirit of future of work. Thank you for asking this question. So say every subject has a skill component and a vocational component. Thank you for that question. Nidhi, any more questions on the Hangout?
No, sir, not as of now. This was the only question that was posted in the chat box. Dr. Rupam is thanking you, sir, for your answer. He has, I think he has understood and he agrees to what you are saying. Any more questions by the participants? Please, you can either raise your hand or you can post your questions in the chat box, please.
I think they are getting hungry perhaps.
Yes, sir. We are approaching lunchtime.
Any question from your faculty, Nidhi?
Yes, sorry, sir.
Any question from your faculty in case they are there?
No, sir. Now, sir.
So, okay, since you are getting hungry for lunch, I would like to thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. And I would only urge all of you to think not as business usual, think differently, and identify approaches to vocational education or technical education in a different perspective, different modes of learning, different learning outcomes, new vocations, and so on, in the context of future of work and other learning aspects. Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, sir. We at Teaching Learning Center, Ramanujan College, are highly indebted to you, sir, for sparing your time and delivering this session. I remember I just called you once and you immediately responded to my request, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your efforts. And this was indeed a very engaging session. Thank you so much, sir, once again. And we would definitely like to continue this association with you in the future as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.